When I started this project, I could barely put my truck into four-wheel drive. And it wasn't even my truck. I had to borrow it from my dad because I didn't even own the right equipment to get to my ranch in the first place. Now it's a year later, I own 2 four-wheel drive vehicles, an equipment trailer, and a bulldozer, and a small mountain of tools that are required to support all that equipment. But this channel isn't about equipment. It's about building a desert forest and all that it takes to make it happen. There's so much that I haven't shared with you on this channel, and I've even hidden some of the failures. I didn't hide those failures out of fear, I just really wanted time to reflect on what those failures meant and where they fit into the bigger picture. My belief is that if I show you my failures on my way to successfully building a desert forest, I'm hoping that a few of you will believe that you can do it too. From the beginning, the Dustups stories always had 3 parts: water, plants, and logistics. Those were always the problems starting out. They're always going to be the problems. Water doesn't really mean drinking water. Even being 2 hours away from town, it's easy enough to put water in an IBC and to haul it out on my trailer. Water to me means water in the ground where plants expect to find it, which is at the roots. This is the 1-year episode, which marks 1 year of active effort to plan and build the desert forest. Let's jump back to February of last year to bring you up to speed. Whoa, look how wet the soil is. Yeah, look, that's all the, oh, that's actually from the roots, but yeah, the soil's, it's got some moisture in there. Sweet.
That's good news.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That was tough as nails, but down there, you got some deep, deep soil.
And that's the whole point between you digging this side and that side, is that the soils are going to be different, the conditions are going to be different, and so the only way I'm going to know is to really let stuff grow. So it's better to test a couple of different areas and not put all my chips in the wrong spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
The biggest success this year by far was the dirt bathtubs. I planted a decent mix of plants. I planted sorghum, cowpeas, a couple others. The cowpeas popped up and they did okay, but what did really well was the sorghum. What didn't work was hand broadcasting the seed. I had a bag of seeds and was literally just throwing them into the dirt bathtubs to get a sense for what was going to work before I put a lot of time and effort into following a strategy. I need to figure out 2 things. 1, how am I going to get a forest? And 2, how am I going to make this whole project pay for itself? How am I going to make this not a money pit? There needs to be some kind of economic output from all of this activity. It's fine that I don't know where it's going, but there has to be an end to the road. One interesting project that I came across, which was actually in 2022, it's called 1 Billion Agave. This was started by rural farmers in Guanajuato, Mexico. Not just rural farmers, but subsistence farmers, people that are eking out a meager living on a hectare of land, which is about 2.5 acres. Guanajuato, which is in the Chihuahuan Desert, the same as me, it's very hard to grow things, especially when you don't have irrigation and you got to make it work in some very difficult weather. What they did is they realized that if you make sauerkraut for cows out of agave, it's a very nutritious source of feed. Agave grows very well out here. It's native to the Chihuahuan Desert. What they do is they focus on supermassive varieties. Look at the size of this agave. It's bigger than the size of my head. Agave Salmiana, Americana, Franziasini, the really, really big ones. And what they do is they chop the leaves, they put it in a bucket, add a protein source, which is usually mesquite pods, and then they wait 28 days. And after that, you've made your sauerkraut for cows, and you have extremely cheap cattle feed. My idea was, why don't I go down to the headquarters of this project, Rancho Villa Organica, in Guanajuato, and see if I can't learn something. Good morning, everybody. I am at Villa Organica. I just had a meeting with the host here, and she's arranged a pretty much day-long education session for me to learn all about this agave mesquite system. I obviously know all the benefits and I read everything online, but what I need is the how-to. So she's going to take me to the orchard, show me the entire process start to finish, and I'm hoping that I can go home to Texas and apply what I learn here on my little slice of desert heaven. ¿Este es qué?
Es agave salmiana.
Salmiana, ok.
Salmiana. De este lado tenemos los mezcaleros o tequileros que utilizan más en
Es
el norte del país.
como agave azul para
Ajá.
tequila.
Sí.
Sí.
Y Y esos, que es el agave en marginata, que también su aguamiel es muy dulce. Mira, de aquel lado son también los magueyes, que son otras variedades.
¿Este es un maguey?
Ese es un maguey,
¿Sí?
es como tipo espadín, ajá. Y este es otra variedad, y ese blanco, si te fijas, es más clarito.
Huh. Okay. Right now we're on our way to see the planting area for where the agave fields are being established.
Pues el plan va a ser montar con Sean, él es Sean, Aaron.
Aaron, mucho gusto.
Va a ser hacer una cama de maguey. Entonces, vamos a hacer una cama de estas.
¿Sí?
¿Sí? Mira, esta cama de aquí tiene como 2 meses.
Oh,
y aquí
wow.
van saliendo los agaves.
Sí.
¿Ya viste? Y estas de acá tienen 1 año.
Un año solamente.
1 año.
Wow.
Va como de los 7 a los 12 años, más o menos.
¿Sí?
El tiempo de vida de un agave.
Wow. Es un tiempo largo.
Sí. ¿Quieres ver la semilla? Y si quieres te
Sí,
platico.
por favor. Y mi primera pregunta es, ¿puedo comprar semillas de vía orgánica?
Quizás podamos venderte.
¿Sí?
Sí.
Okay.
Mira, y estos tienen 2 años.
Wow.
Estos.
So these agaves are only 2 years old, and the first ones that I saw were 2 months, and the second bed was just a year old.
Bueno, primero hay que sacar las medidas y después hay que deshiervarla y prepararla, aflojar un poquito el suelo y le ponemos composta para la nutrición y ahora sí le ponemos la paja.
Bueno. Porque en el principio es un experimento. No sé las variedades de agave que necesito.
Ajá.
Y también el método de propagación.
Ajá.
¿Qué es mejor, de semillas o de raíces?
Es más rápido por hijuelos.
Ok.
Porque los hijuelos ya crecen a un ladito de la madre y aparte son muchos por planta.
Ok.
Y
¿Y cómo se llaman las raíces?
rizomas. Ajá.
Rizoma, sí,
Rizoma.
rhizomes.
Ajá, y una plantita casi desde el primer año, segundo año ya te está dando hijuelos.
¿Y juelo es una rizoma?
Sí.
Ok. ¿Hay guantes? No.
No.
So, you see, it's a baby little agave, and then you take these rhizomes and you establish it in the soil. And that's one of the things I'm hoping to learn here is we'll do some seed bed prep and then we'll establish some rhizomes because those grow much faster. I showed some beds that were established from rhizomes. They were pretty far along. And what's crazy is that you're supposed to be able to start harvesting the pencas from the agave, their leaves, to turn into silage within as little as 2 years, but generally 3.
Esta es la semilla de agave, es de agave salmiana. La siembra se hace al boleo.
¿En un mes qué va a pasar?
Empieza a germinar la semilla.
Ah, bueno. Now that Via Organica has shown me the basics of the agave mesquite system, I'm ready to head back home to Texas to start putting these ideas into practice. The exercise of planting those seeds with Maya was really important because it gave me an idea for how I'm going to establish my own seed source, but also establish my own agave. If you buy agave Americana in pots, it's very expensive. And I was trying to shortcut that process by going straight to seed. And what I did was I spent a lot of time out here planting those seeds, and this is how it went. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that planting 3,500-ish seeds would result in 0 germinations. I thought even if I only get 5 or 10%, that's a big win and a huge cost savings. It didn't work, which is okay. There's a lot of things that I can take and go back to the drawing board. The best thing I can do to keep my morale up on a very difficult project like Dustups is to serve myself a delicious meal every time I'm out there. That's why I'm excited to work with today's sponsor, Good Chop. It's so easy when you have really high quality meat come to you and it's just in the mail. If you can accept the package and get it in your freezer, you're good to go. The first meal I had was wild caught, antibiotic-free, hormone-free shrimp with uncured bacon. And of course, I'm cooking meat on a ranch in Texas. It feels wrong to not try out the ribeye. The food was absolutely delicious. All of their products are American sourced. All of the seafood, all of the beef, all the poultry, everything is US based. I know my wife and I have had this discussion where we want to support our local ranchers. We want to find somebody to get us great chicken, great beef, great seafood. It's really hard and it takes a lot of time to find all that stuff. Good Chop puts all of that effort into one service and makes it so easy to just get your package in the mail. I can't imagine how you wouldn't like it, but if you don't like it, you get all of your money back, 100% guaranteed.
We got the shrimp and bacon juice, and it's yummy.
Chug it, chug it.
That's how you survive in the desert.
Go to goodchop.com/YouTube, enter the promotion code DUSTUPS120 to get $120 off across your first 4 boxes. Again, that link is goodchop.com/YouTube. Your promotion code is DUSTUPS120, and that gets you $120 off across your first 4 boxes. A viewer on this channel donated 11 Agave Americana plants, and what did work was transplanting those into the dirt bathtubs. Even after doing all that work, I had 1 plant survive. And the reason was that Kyle sent me some very juvenile plants, which was awesome. I'm so happy to receive them. The juvenile transplants just don't have what it takes to make it. You need a little more mature plant if it's going to go through that dehydration phase of getting established in new soil before it's going to be able to take off. But it's a lot of work to realize that you got 1 agave growing on the property. Agave Americana. I actually have tons of lechuguilla, which is a different type of agave. Probably not worth the time to try to harvest the lechuguilla. The pencas, the leaves on the agave are too small. But on the Agave Americana, it's something I want to do going forward, but I realized I started the 1 billion agave project thinking that's going to be the primary output. That's going to be the way to get started. And the agave needs a lot more help to get established. What's working out really well so far was the switch to cactus, because the variety of cactus that I have growing here is obviously native. And we've already gone through the process of transplanting about 3,500 pads into the dirt bathtubs. So far we've had minimal losses on those pads, and I've had volunteers as they've come up here with myself. We've been covering those cacti as we get an opportunity, and I'm excited to see where it goes. That idea didn't come from me. The cacti is the idea of Tiago Jimenez. He is the leader of Syntropic Agriculture, where they've had a very successful project exactly like mine, but in the outback of Australia, called Lightning Ridge. In fact, I'm going to put a link to that video in the description, because I really think if you like what I'm doing, it's already been done before. Tiago knows how to do it, and I'm delighted that he reached out to me, because he's really passionate about seeing this become a desert forest. I'll have him out here in April in person, which I'm just so looking forward to. The one thing that's been a little unclear in my mind is how I'm going to transition from whatever it is that we establish first. It's likely to be the prickly pear. Then we go from prickly pear to grass to woody shrubs until we get to the forest. It was a lot of work to harvest all that cacti, a lot of work, but now that I'm seeing it starting to work, where the pads in the dirt bathtubs have actually started to take root and they're not dying, I'm happy. I'm very happy. I did want to tell you about the Miyawaki forest, because there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that what we transplanted there, all dead. Every single one of them. They lasted 2 months and they didn't make it. I don't know exactly what the cause was. I did remove the sunshade or the sun fabric after a month, and maybe that was too much stress. I also kind of wonder whether we had too much air under the soil, because we followed hugelkultur, and I don't know if we did a good job of tamping all that soil down to get rid of air pockets. But I want to show you the good outcome because Diane brought me so much moringa that I couldn't plant it all in that spot. Take a look. It should be gross, but I promise you, at least on camera, it's not. This is the Dustups latrine. And I can't believe that the latrine has made it into an episode, but here we are. And this is the reason. These moringa transplants are only 2 months old. And look at the size of that trunk on that transplant. When I planted them, they were maybe this tall. So they've put on just an enormous amount of growth. And the only water they're getting is the kind that comes out of humans. I just thought, you know, this latrine is full of organic matter. It's the human organic matter that we produce most days. And when we go to the restroom, we add in these wood shavings. So for all of you that have been so hot on wood chips, the wood chips are working, just not how I expected. So the actual content of organic matter in the soil is minimal, and yet we have the moringa going. In the bathtubs that we haven't planted cactus, I think there actually is there's an argument to half fill them back in, but with a very, very small and judicious use of organic amendments and wood chips. I'm hoping to take that latrine moringa lesson and apply it here. I have arranged the dog houses that I bought at auction. They're now here thanks to some wonderful volunteers that brought this up when I wasn't here. And it's arranged in a courtyard. What I want to do with this courtyard is to have a concentrated garden. And I think the fastest way to get shade on these buildings to prepare for the summer, not this year, but hopefully next, is moringa. The moringa did really well, but it's going to have to be protected because the cattle have realized that Dove Alley, where I'm doing all this work, is unique. It's protected. It cuts the wind velocity more than in half. And it's a natural place to get out of the sun. All the north-facing slopes are covered naturally in grass. It's the south-facing slopes, which are the vast majority of them, that need all the help. I can take that same moringa lesson from the latrine where I know that it's something to do with the organic matter and the biological activity and the deposited organic matter that really gave the moringa whatever it was that they were lacking in the hugelkultur to do okay out here. This spot right over here, actually where my buddy Daniel's got his truck parked, we can have a nice garden where it's such a small area that it can make sense to bring in wood chips and compost tea and biochar and really get this area going. And it can be really nice to look at. So now that I know that these buildings are settled, this is going to meet my immediate needs out here. I'm really looking forward to having some green and knowing that we can have a small enough area that it makes sense to irrigate. I'm really excited to get that going. We have to do a little more work. I need to trench around here so I can run electric. I want to make a mess of the place before I really start trying to get the biology going. That's probably like 800 square feet, maybe 1,000 square feet. I haven't measured it. We just set the buildings down and eyeballed it, and I'm really happy with it. It feels like home. If you like what I'm doing and you really enjoy this project, please take a second to like and subscribe. Building a desert forest in the most isolated spot in the state of Texas demands logistics. Everybody that watches this is obviously centered on the core value of land stewardship and greening the desert. But if you're going to green the desert, you need infrastructure. And I started from a completely blank slate. When I came out here, I slept in a tent, a little pop-up tent, and did that for almost a year, coming out here every 6 weeks to 2 months. When I got that drash tent, gosh, what an upgrade. Not quite indoors, but just being able to get out of bed and stand up and having my medicine on a table. It's little things that you really take for granted. And now out here in the January winter, where I just experienced a major dust storm where not in this spot, but other parts of the valley had sustained winds of 50 miles an hour. It's nice to be able to sleep inside in something with insulation and a solar panel set up, which, by the way, I haven't showed you that solar episode. So let me show you my power system out here. Having a refrigerator in Starlink is just, it's so much more pleasant to be out here, and it's all powered with solar. I'm going to show you the process of putting that together and how you make that work inside of a drash tent. The goal now is to work in the tent while it's hot and try to get my an electric panel mounted up here, which I'm going to have to figure out because I didn't have measurements. I had to wing it at home. Then we can connect the controller to the batteries and then the batteries to the inverter. And later on, I'm going to go up and drag the gravel screen down here so that I can mount the solar panels and connect everything. I think it's going to be easiest if I start with this board right here. So I'm going to mount, obviously this is a junction or a power box, and then this is where the charge controller is going to go. I think I prefer it here just so I can access it. It works. Well, it looks like I didn't fully charge the battery, but whoops. Well, anyway, I got power now. Okay, so now I can go right to the inverter, which I'll put in that tub to keep water off it. I have power on my inverter, so now I get to do the fun stuff, which is linking up Starlink and charging stuff. I'm so pumped. That also means now I get to do the next phase of the project, which is very improvised. I'm using my truck to drag my gravel screen all the way over here because I don't have heavy equipment out here yet. That's likely it for today. Tomorrow when I get some spare time, I'll put the panels on, and I may just start putting mounts and laying some groundwork, but I won't worry about the wiring until tomorrow because obviously there's no point because the sun's gone. There we go. And now I'm going to turn the charge controller back on and just make sure everything works. Flip this to hot. There we go. Charging. Awesome. Because these are 6 100-watt panels, you might be inclined to think, well, geez, you got way more power than you possibly need. But what I'll show you is it's now been a month, and I can walk you through some of the problems that have come up and why I think I actually could use a little bit more power. So right now, I am here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Normally this would be up to about 12.7 volts. It's been overcast almost all day, and when there's not a lot of sun on the panels, it's really hard for it to recharge. And that's only drawing a base load of about 122 volts. So it's got the refrigerator, which is off right now, and then it has Starlink, which is normally pulling like 40 watts. But between the refrigerator running off and on and Starlink pulling 30 to 60 watts all the time, that's pretty much what this system has, enough power to run consistently in all weather conditions. The only other problem I've had since installing it was that when I got here, everything was off. And what happened was the breaker tripped. I might have too small of a breaker. Right now it's 10 amp, and I need to ask somebody that knows more about solar systems whether I should have a larger fuse or not. But that's something that's relatively easy to change. If the electricity cuts, it's not a big deal. It just means I don't get real-time weather updates. But other than that, it really isn't that big of an issue. But being here, it's been really nice. I have my refrigerator where I have cheese and salsa and some soda, sandwich condiments, just really basic things. So it lets me stay out here longer without having to go get ice. And you can see that's where I've been sitting, right next to my gravel screen where I had all the solar panels mounted. It was over here that you just saw next to the drash tent, and I was able to hook it up to my Suburban because the Tacoma is getting replaced, and drag this right into position facing due south. And I know it's due south because right up on Eagle Mountain, there's a little white dome that doesn't come out on camera. That is due north within a couple of degrees. But let me show you the electrical setup that I have and give you a quick tour of my bedroom. So I got a little cot, and I'll be bringing a mattress out next time. But it's just really simple things. Like I have shelving with some medicine, and for now, the electrical equipment is up there. That's the charge controller. It's going to get mounted here, right above the AC panel, and then also that fuse box will get put right here. I need to drill some holes through this so I can not have these cables just snaking everywhere. I have young children, and well, they're not young anymore, I guess. My kids are 7, 10, and 12, but nonetheless, I don't want them pulling on electrical cables. But we'll get this wired up relatively soon. That will be operative before the summer hits, I promise. And I've already just did a lazy job of making sure that the 25-degree nights don't freeze me to death. And what I did is I just took that can of spray foam, plugged some holes in this vent. This doghouse used to be a laundry room in the oil field. So that's the reason it's got all these vents, which actually made it great because the way I brought the electric into the building is right through the dryer outlets. I'll show you this other one. It's more of the same, really. We haven't done anything with this other than set up a cot for Daniel, who's doing me a favor and operating my dozer right now. And so we got a cot set up, and there's some shelves, but it's right now, it's a blank slate. And the main thing I'm excited about is that we can use the trash tent for the volunteers. So we have a community space that's inside where everybody can eat a meal and get out of the weather. And if it's a smaller group, because some people are coming out here for a week at a time, and I like to have them sleep inside. There's no reason to live in a tent for a week if you don't have to. Is now we have this mobile office trailer as well. And this is kind of like, this is the kitchen for the moment. I don't know what I'm going to do with this long term, but I have a water station set up. This is my eating table. Normally I have my chair that I'm sitting on here where I eat my meal, and then I cook here. I have a couple of supplies, and this also does heating and cooling, and it's insulated, which is great. Soon, when I have time, which is probably never, but hopefully soon we'll have this thing off of the mobile home trailers, or axles. And once we get it off the axles, we can get it onto jack stands. It'll make it a little more stable. And then longer term, I can get it set on cement blocks and put a skirting around it. And then it should be much better insulated when we don't have the air underneath it blowing away constantly. As we speak, it is early January. There's about 3.5 acres that have been excavated. 2.6 of those are dirt bathtubs, with the balance being new terraces that I've built. But you haven't seen that episode yet. Wait, yeah, you have. Maybe you've seen that episode yet, maybe you haven't. I forget the order that I'm gonna release everything. But there are terraces built. There's the pond. I need to stop calling it a pond. It's a dam. The dam is built. We're going to work on the spillway here later this afternoon. I have everything marked out. We're ready to go. When Tiago comes here in April, we're going to have a big group out. This is going to be a paid seminar. Not me. I don't have anything to teach you, but Tiago's the expert. If you're interested in attending that, make sure that you go to dustupsranch.com and sign up for the newsletter. That seminar, we're going to actually follow the syntropic system, and we're going to do everything soup to nuts. We're going to apply biochar in the terraced areas. We're going to create compost tea. We're going to plant cacti. We're going to do a whole system to give this the absolute best opportunity to succeed. Thank you for watching.